We are live. We are live. I'm Dr. Frita, and welcome to Medical Monday, where I talk about celebrity health and I give you all of the hot health topics in the headlines. Today, we have a jam-packed show full of lots of health topics in the headlines and lots of learning to do. We'll start off with my favorite game, myth versus fact. It's a game, but it's not really a game because it's going to help us to learn. We are going to talk about Miss Wendy Williams, who is back in the headlines because she was reevaluated, and on the reevaluation of her mental state, her mental diagnosis, reportedly, she still has the diagnosis of frontotemporal dementia and primary progressive aphasia. And some people are wondering, is this different from Alzheimer's? And so we'll do a myth versus fact statement, and then I will weigh in and give my professional opinion on what I think about this re-diagnosis. Does she really have it, or is there some shady stuff going on with her guardianship? We'll talk about it. And then we'll get into a weekly dose where I'll give you a fresh take on the headlines you simply can't get anywhere else. We'll talk about Black Ink's Ceaser Emanuel, because he had a really powerful interview with Carlos King, where he shared some serious health issues he has been dealing with, including he had 2 strokes, he has high blood pressure, he has some heart issues, and get this, he's only in his 40s. And so we'll go over strokes, high blood pressure, and really, why are these things so prevalent among Black men? Okay, we'll get into it. And then we'll talk about the legendary, iconic Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, Gladys Knight. She has been in the headlines because her son is suing her husband for elder abuse. He says it's a crying shame. He says it's elder abuse because, according to Gladys Knight's son, she has some cognitive decline, some memory decline, and her son thinks that it is abuse to have her out here performing and on the road. And so we will get into what is elder abuse, and then we'll also talk about some of the specific allegations from the son, including what is sundowning, because according to the son, Gladys Knight's husband shared that she has a diagnosis of sundown syndrome. Next, we'll talk about Pete Davidson. You know him, the comedian, the actor, has been with, he used to date Kim Kardashian, but that's not what we're talking about today. Today, we're talking about him sharing that he has dealt with different substance use issues, including marijuana, and he stated that he actually had a psychotic episode. He got psychosis from being on marijuana. Now, is this just a scheme and a plan? Is this just some kind of a stunt? Is he joking around? I mean, really? Can you get psychosis from marijuana? Oh, I have the answer, and it might surprise you. We'll talk about that. And then we'll keep on moving. If we'll have time, we'll talk about this new Japanese walking technique that could really be saving lives. Of course, this is live Medical Monday, and so you can interact with me. I will be interacting with you. And in the end, we're all going to learn more about how to stay healthy and happy. So let's get started. I'm Dr. Frita. This is Medical Monday. We are live. I'm Dr. Frita. This is Medical Monday. Come on in here. Please go ahead and give us a like and a share as we get started, because I am going to be sharing evidence-based medical information. But y'all know I'm not doing it by myself. Miss Shador, where are you? Come to the front of the stage. Welcome to my office manager and my co-host, Miss Shador. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. How are you doing?
Doing really well. How was your weekend?
Weekend went well. No complaints here. How about yours?
It was good. I went and hung out with one of my besties, Miss Carmen. We've been friends since we were 17 years old. We've been roommates in college. And so we were up to no good in a good way. So I had fun with her, checked out some basketball games, and just kind of had a pretty good, relaxing weekend, pretty productive. Geez, I actually don't have any complaints. Imagine that. All right. Well, Shador, there are some people who do have complaints, and they are in our headlines, and we will get to them. But first, who was the first person in the chat today?
The person in the chat today was Miss Aileen.
Miss Aileen. I knew it. I just felt it. Hi, Miss Aileen. Good. Welcome here. And you already know, get your pencils out, Miss Aileen, because you know I'm going to be asking you questions. Okay. And everybody in the chat, everybody on IG, hello, come on in. Everybody in Facebook, replay crew, you know what to do. You know, we like participation here as we learn. So let's go ahead and get started, shall we? All right. So Wendy Williams, we've been following her very closely right here on the at Dr. Frita channel. Even going back a year ago, I did a 6-part series on what's happening with Wendy Williams' health right after she released that Lifetime documentary, that docu-series, Where is Wendy Williams? And we talked about the different things like lymphedema, what's happening to Wendy Williams' feet, frontotemporal dementia, alcohol-induced dementia, Graves' disease. We talked about drug abuse, addiction, all of it. After you finish watching this live, make sure you check it out. I have it in my playlist, the Wendy Williams series. So during that Lifetime series, we saw that she perhaps did show some signs of cognitive impairment, some memory issues, perhaps some inappropriate behavior. But I don't know about you, but I was very happy to see, and I think all of us were, that she seemed to have great cognitive improvement on different interviews she did this year with The Breakfast Club, with Don Lemon, with The View, where she seemed to be closer to herself. She had some improvement. Her speech was clear. Her memory was good. She had that Wendy Williams wit. And so we were all excited. And then on top of that, she did a cognitive test where she kind of had a little escape from her guardianship just for a moment, went to a hospital, and she had some cognitive tests, which reportedly she passed with flying colors. And so I know that I was very optimistic for her reevaluation to see if she really had all of this cognitive impairment, if she really needed this guardianship. And we just learned that she actually was re-diagnosed with frontotemporal dementia and primary progressive aphasia. And so we're going to have some myth versus fact questions. So go ahead and get your pencils ready. Yes, everybody, I want you to answer these questions. And then after I finish explaining frontotemporal dementia, Alzheimer's dementia, the difference, I'll weigh in on what I think about this re-diagnosis and this guardianship. All right, let's first go ahead and play the clip, just a bit of the clip of the short I did. Shador, please. Wendy Williams has just undergone a series of neurological tests, and reportedly, she still has a diagnosis of frontotemporal dementia. I'm Dr. Frita. I'm an MD who has been quadruple board certified, and I have questions. When we talk about frontotemporal dementia, we're talking about a dementia that gets worse over time. It typically presents in younger patients between the ages of 40 and 65, and these patients have cognitive impairment. They have memory loss. They have difficulty with executive functioning, meaning difficulty carrying out tasks like writing a check or remembering multi-step directions. With Wendy Williams, she was also diagnosed with primary progressive aphasia, progressive being the key word. With primary progressive aphasia, patients have difficulty with speech, difficulty with word finding, difficulty understanding language, difficulty expressing themselves clearly. Now, if you watched her docuseries that came out last year, Where is Wendy Williams?, then you may have observed that at that time, she did seem to have some issues with word finding sometimes, perhaps what appeared to be difficulty with memory. You will also recall that her son stated that he believed that he had once been told that she could have had alcohol-induced dementia. All right. So in order to watch that full short, you can watch it right here on YouTube. You can watch it on IG, Hey IG, on Facebook, all of my social media platforms. So let's go ahead and get into it. Get your pencils out. And here is my favorite little game, myth versus fact. Let's go ahead and read this first one, please, Shador.
All right. Frontotemporal dementia, or FTD, is just another name for Alzheimer's disease.
Okay. M1, if this is a myth. F1, if this is a fact, if it's the same thing. Okay, myth versus fact, statement number 2.
If you pass a mental competency test, you can't have dementia.
Okay, if you pass a mental competency test, if you pass it, you cannot have dementia. Put an M2 if that's a myth. Put an F2 if that's a fact. All right, one more.
Yes, ma'am. Aphasia, one of Wendy's diagnoses, directly impacts the ability to communicate.
Okay. Aphasia, one of her diagnoses, allegedly, affects her ability to communicate. Okay, so if someone actually does have aphasia, does it affect their ability to communicate? M3, if that's a myth, F3, if that's a fact, Jack. All right, pencils down, pencils down. All right, let's see who all I tripped up with my little game.
All right,
All
back
right.
to statement 1. Frontotemporal dementia is just another name for Alzheimer's disease. I think we may have a slight mixed bag here. Lisa,
right.
hello, says it is a myth.
A myth. She says it's not the same thing. Okay.
Planet Life
Hi, Planet Life.
says it's a myth.
A myth. Okay.
T Chosen agrees that it is a myth.
Okay. Hello, T Chosen.
Over on IG, Matawada says a myth.
Matawada. So you agree with them that it's a myth. Ooh, let me tell you what I have for you over on IG. I've been very busy. I did post a reel on Wendy Williams, okay, on my opinion on her frontotemporal dementia. You just saw a little piece of it right there. I also posted a reel on, Black Ink, Ceaser, which we're about to talk about it, but I give you a nice little short bite-sized bit of information so you can take it in and you can share it with others. I also posted when I was on CBS just last week, when I was on our local CBS, Atlanta News First, talking about the CDC violence that occurred, where a 30-year-old man was pow-powing up the place all through CDC because he felt that the C-19 vaccine caused him to be depressed. And so he literally took the life of a 33-year-old officer. Officer Rose, who was married, had 2 children, and his wife is pregnant. Officer Rose was a Marine who had served in Afghanistan. So I did talk about that, and you'll see where I was on our local CBS, Atlanta News First. And then, hey, why stop there? Last night, I posted a reel on Gladys Knight. So after you finish this live, please go ahead and check out all of the reels and all the things I have for you over there on IG. And for everyone who's here on YouTube for our Medical Monday YouTube Live, y'all know we meet every Monday at noon Eastern Standard Time. And I'm very thankful to everyone on IG, where we're up to over 52,000 subscribers. Facebook, we're also over 55,000 subscribers, I believe. And right here on YouTube, we're up to over 885,000 subscribers. So please make sure you go ahead and give us a like and give us a subscribe. Y'all help us to get to 900,000, por favor. Okay, gracias mucho. All right, now IG, she got me thrown off. Now she said it was a myth. Also, she doesn't.
She
think
said it was a myth. Well, we have a couple of people say it's a fact, Dr. Frita.
Who says it's a fact, Jack? That's the same thing.
H. Jones.
Hi, H. Jones. You said it's a fact that FTD, Alzheimer's, it's all the same. Okay.
And Trucker Layla says a fact as well.
Hi, Trucker Layla. Welcome. You say it's a fact. All right. So frontotemporal dementia is the same thing as Alzheimer's. That's a myth. That's a myth. And let me explain. So what they do have in common, and this is the fact, that they're all forms of dementia. Okay. There's a big umbrella of dementia that has a lot of different subdiagnoses, and that's what gets some people confused. So Alzheimer's dementia, it is the most common type of dementia, but really it's just a subtype. It is a type of dementia. Frontotemporal dementia, it's a form of dementia. It's under that umbrella. It's a type of dementia. Parkinson's dementia, a type of dementia. Okay. There are many different types of dementia, Lewy body dementia, but they all fit under the umbrella. We hear Alzheimer's the most because it's actually the most common. But let's talk about some differences between frontotemporal dementia and Alzheimer's dementia. So Alzheimer's dementia, again, the most common one, tends to occur in people who are older, certainly over the age of 65. And with Alzheimer's dementia, memory loss is the primary symptom, okay? Forgetting. But patients tend to be pretty sophisticated, especially early in the diagnosis, and they'll still have proper behavior. They'll be able to carry themselves nicely. They'll have proper impulse control, and oftentimes be able to cover up the fact that they're having memory loss. Memory loss is the primary presenting symptom with Alzheimer's disease. And again, Alzheimer's disease tends to present in older people. With frontotemporal dementia, this tends to present in younger people, ages 40 to 65, and the primary presenting symptom tends to be of the behavioral sort, okay? Behavioral issues, impulse control, and you'll get difficulty word finding, sometimes inappropriate behavior, saying really rude things that are out of the norm for your baseline personality, having difficulty with executive functioning early on, meaning not being able to write a check easily, not being able to follow multi-step directions. You might still have a pretty decent memory early on, knowing the time, the date, the location, things of that nature, but your behavior might be off. Okay. So these are some of the main differences between frontotemporal dementia and Alzheimer's dementia. Again, they are both under the umbrella of dementia, but they're actually two different things. All right. That's a good one. All right. What's our next myth versus fact? Number 2, what say you to the chat?
If you pass a mental competency test, you can't have dementia.
If you pass a mental competency test, a speech competency. If you pass a mental competency test, you cannot have dementia. If you pass a mental competency test, you cannot have dementia. Is that a myth or a fact? What do the people say?
Tongue-tied there a little bit. So we have a mix here. Our member, Miss Andrea, hello.
Hi, Miss Andrea.
She says myth.
Okay.
Mr.
Oh,
Mr.
so you're saying even if you pass the test, that doesn't completely rule out having dementia. Okay, Miss Andrea.
Mr. says it is a fact.
A fact. If you pass it, that's it. You don't have it. You don't have dementia. Okay.
Regina, hello, says a myth.
Hi, Regina. Okay, you think you can pass it, but still possibly have dementia.
Ayan Go from Facebook says it is a myth.
A myth. Okay. So y'all don't think that a test is the end all. Because you remember she passed the mental competency test back some months ago.
Sherry, hello, says a fact as well.
You think it's a fact if you passed it? Okay. So then I'm curious on what you all think, and we'll get into this after we finish our last statement. What do you think about Wendy? Is she mentally competent? Is she not? Based on what we've seen, understanding we have limited information, because she passed it, but now they're saying she didn't pass it, essentially, or at least that she still has the diagnosis. Okay.
And the MP Anika on IG says myth.
Oh, I'm telling you, y'all better listen to the NP Anika, because she is correct. This is a myth. Thank you. Welcome back. I love having you on, NP Anika. Okay, so just because you pass the mental competency test, it does not mean that you do not have dementia. And here's the deal. There are different tests to assess how mentally competent you are, and some of them are very short, like less than 15 minutes. I know that when I was doing a lot of internal medicine, we would do a mini mental check to see, and they'll ask you different things like some orientation questions. They might ask you to remember 3 words. They'll give you 3 words that are unrelated, like cat, globe, fire, and they'll come back later and ask you to recall those words. They might ask you to spell a word the front ways and just spell it backwards, to do different math tests or different checks that are done. But I'll be honest, I have had patients whom I've known to have dementia, and I've certainly had people who are close to me who I have witnessed and watched, and I've seen them have cognitive decline, to the point where I was very sure, even before the physician made their diagnosis, like the people who are close to me. And I have watched these folks who are still very highly intelligent pass some of these tests and still have dementia. The point is that to diagnose dementia, there's not just a one-stop shop where a test can rule it in or rule it out. Not one test. There's a lot of things. There's imaging studies like brain MRIs. There's documented activities, documented cognitive decline. Does the person have sundowning? There's more that goes into it. So it is possible to have a mini mental status check and to pass a test just based on memory and a little bit of orientation on the surface, and you really could still have dementia, just like NP Anika and the other folks who said myth said. Yeah, that's a bit of a tricky one. All right, let's do this last one here. And then I want to find out from you what you think about Wendy Williams' case. Do you think that there's some funny business with this guardianship, or do you still have some questions, or do you just think, oh, well, she got it. Bye. Let the guardian have her. All right.
Statement 3, aphasia, one of Wendy's diagnoses, directly impacts the ability to communicate. TS says myth.
So you don't think aphasia directly impacts the ability to communicate. Because interestingly, TS, they say that she has primary progressive aphasia. Okay, and we'll talk about what aphasia is. And she seems to communicate pretty effectively, at least in the interviews that we as the public have seen. All right.
Planet Life disagrees. Planet Life says fact.
How dare you, Planet Life? Okay, so you think it's a fact that aphasia, just the general diagnosis of aphasia, that it affects your communication. Okay.
Aileen says fact.
Hey, Aileen. All right. You and Planet Life are standing on business.
Mimi says it's a fact.
Mimi. Okay.
Andrea says a fact as well.
You say it's a fact as well. All right. So does aphasia directly affect your ability to communicate? This is a fact. This is a fact. So now let's talk about the definition of aphasia. So when you're talking about aphasia, you're talking about the ability to speak and to communicate. So if someone has aphasia, that means they have a difficulty in understanding language, difficulty speaking words, difficulty making sense and processing language. This is aphasia. And so with the primary progressive aphasia, which is a subtype of the frontotemporal dementia, and this is the diagnosis they say that Wendy has, then you expect her to have difficulty with speaking, difficulty understanding. Now, I will say in these recent conversations, at least the ones that we've seen, she did not seem to have any difficulty expressing herself and processing in the conversation. Does she seem exactly like she did, 15 years ago on the show? Perhaps not. Perhaps many of us are not exactly as we were 15 years ago, but certainly she didn't seem to have a lot of problems with word finding and word expression. But with primary progressive aphasia, then you expect there to be a negative effect on your language. And with that word progressive, you expect it to get worse over time. So going back to Wendy Williams, we saw that she did seem to have some word finding. If you did watch that series, that Lifetime series, Where is Wendy Williams? But now it looks like she's improving. So by definition of primary progressive aphasia, unless we're only catching her on cherry pick times where she's having a great day, then overall on these different days, different times of the week that we've seen her, it looks like she's improving, not getting progressively worse. So what we're seeing does not go with the definition of primary progressive aphasia. But yes, that definitely does affect language. The other thing with the frontotemporal dementia, and it affects specific lobes of your brain. So there are 4 lobes of the brain, right? You've got the frontal lobe, you've got the temporal lobe, you've got the parietal lobe, and then you've got the occipital lobe. When we're talking about frontotemporal dementia, we're talking about the frontal lobe and the temporal lobe being affected. And I will be showing you a diagram of that in just a little bit. So for the frontal lobe, that's the part of the brain that helps with a lot of your, let's just look at the frontal lobe of the brain here. So that's just gonna be this first diagram, not that second one. So for the frontal lobe, you see up there in the front, makes sense. That helps you with decision-making, executive functioning, problem solving. A lot of your personality and impulse control is regulated in the frontal lobe. Okay, so with frontal lobe dementia, if you're having issues with that, then you might have issues with some of those things like decision-making and with impulse control. So we did see some of that when she was doing that docuseries, but again, she seems to be improving, and we'll talk about why that possibly could be. And so then if you can look and see at this green lobe, that's the temporal lobe, and your temporal lobe helps with a lot of the ways that you hear and process words, okay, auditory processing. It also helps with language, okay, how you process language and how you speak and how you share language. So when you have problems with the frontotemporal dementia, these are the lobes that are primarily being affected, okay? Now, I want to know from you, based on what we've seen, especially if y'all have been with me and if you have been following me, I wanted to know, what do you think about Wendy Williams? Does it sound like, yeah, she really could have frontotemporal dementia, or do you think it could be something else? And I'll tell you, if you recall, back during that docuseries, her son, Kevin, is the one who said that he was told that she had alcohol-induced dementia, okay? Now, Wendy has shared that she's had an issue with alcohol, some alcohol overuse. If indeed she had alcohol-induced dementia, a lot of the symptoms overlap. Impulse control, difficulty with language, difficulty with memory. The difference is once you stop drinking, which reportedly Wendy is not able to drink in her guardianship, and she has stopped drinking reportedly. Once you stop drinking, then in a lot of cases, depending on how far gone the alcohol-induced dementia has gone, in a lot of the cases, you can actually improve, you can get better. And so at least the way that we see her in the public, to me, from my professional opinion, strictly from what I've seen, and I haven't seen any more than the general public has seen, her diagnosis would be more consistent with an alcohol-induced dementia because she seems to be getting better. Now, are there other factors which could have made her have more signs and symptoms of dementia? Like if there were other substances she was using, if she had been sleep deprived, stressed, sure. But I would just need to see more data to really agree with this frontotemporal dementia and this primary progressive aphasia. Based on what we're seeing, what she's showing is just not going with the natural history of the diagnosis. And I'm curious if y'all have any opinions as we get ready to move on. And as y'all are putting down what you're putting down about Wendy Williams, do you think her diagnosis is real? Do you agree with the guardianship with Sabrina Morrissey? Clearly, the family doesn't want her, but even after this re-diagnosis, she's like, oh yeah, let's extend my guardianship for a few more months. What is going on? You know, Sabrina Morrissey has all of these eyes on her, the guardian, and she is holding on. Is she just a good Samaritan looking for the greater good for Wendy, or is it all about financial gain? I'm curious about your opinions. I want y'all to put those in there. And for those of you who are new to us here on the Dr. Frita channel, I am Dr. Frita. I am a medical doctor. I'm an MD, and I have been board certified in nephrology. So I'm a board certified kidney doctor and high blood pressure doctor. I've also been board certified in internal medicine, in pediatrics, and in obesity medicine. And so I like to learn a lot about a lot. And more importantly, I like to share it. And so please make sure you give us a like. Go ahead and subscribe if you're not subscribed, and follow me on all social media platforms because I give you a little something different on each of the social media platforms. All right, Shador, did anyone make a comment on what they think about Wendy Williams in this re-diagnosis?
No, not necessarily on Wendy Williams, but you did touch very so slightly on a question that Bob has. On IG, he says, it's a crazy question, but can stress lead you into dementia?
That is very interesting that you would say that. So being super stressed, especially if the stress takes you to the point of dementia, I'm sorry, if the stress takes you to a point of depression, then depression can present with something called pseudo dementia. Okay, there's literally a term called pseudo dementia, where if you are extremely stressed and that triggers you to go into a depression, then you can present as someone who has low memory, low mood, like you can't seem to remember things, you're having trouble word finding. But if they do scans of your brain, there's nothing wrong, okay? And once the depression is treated, then this pseudo dementia is over, your memory. So in a roundabout way, stress can certainly be a trigger. That's actually a very good question, Bob, on IG. Thank you for following and supporting me over on IG. All right. Very good, very good. All right, Shador, well, let's get into our weekly dose, where I give you a fresh take on the hot health headlines that you simply can't get anywhere else. Let's talk about Carlos King. Y'all, let me tell y'all something. It's like my guilty pleasure. I sit up here and I watch Carlos King interviews, because if y'all watch him, y'all know he loves all the girls. He loves all the girls, but he will sit there and be just as sweet as honey and get those folks comfortable, and they will tell all of their business, or all their business, as the country folks say down where I'm from. So he did an interview with Ceaser Emanuel of Black Ink. Put a BI in the chat if y'all ever watched Black Ink or followed Black Ink. So Ceaser is a young man. He's only in his 40s, and he had his rise in fame and became a reality rock star, if you will, because of he was a tattoo artist initially in New York, and then they had other, spinoffs of Black Ink, and a bit of a controversial character. And ultimately, there was some controversy, which they talk about in this Carlos King interview, where they no longer have the show. But my interest is that Ceaser shared that he had some health issues, okay? This young man in his 40s actually had strokes, 2 strokes, as he describes. So let's go ahead and play this clip, and then we'll talk a little bit more about Ceaser, about strokes, about high blood pressure.
A lot of my shops started down on sizing because I was going through some health issues. And honestly, I thank God for that. Because I was moving too fast.
I do want to get into the health thing because I know you had 2 strokes, which is something that it's like massively unheard of to have. Like,
why is Amazon paying me $63,000 a month?
Okay.
Well, this kind of money.
especially you're still considered to be young to be having a stroke. Are you aware of what caused the 2 strokes that you had?
Well, the way it worked out, right? I didn't know. You know what I mean? The day that it happened, it was like, I don't know, bro. It felt like a bad headache. And then I got here and then it got worse. Luckily, my bodyguard dragged me to the hospital because he was like, he never seen me like this. And I was doing a tattoo. I mean, so I got to the hospital.
Okay. All right. So what he's describing, his blood pressure was extremely high. As you go on in the interview, he said his blood pressure was at least over 180. And we know that if your blood pressure is 130 for that top number or higher, or 80 for that bottom number or higher, then you have high blood pressure. Please, I have many, many videos on this channel. I talk about how to lower blood pressure naturally. I even have a book, Under Pressure, A Guide to Controlling High Blood Pressure. It's so important because it is the silent killer. And so here he is, someone who seemed healthy, tough guy, cool guy, business owner, millionaire, all of these things. But guess what? High blood pressure doesn't care. It doesn't care. And it especially does not care when it comes to Black men and Black people, because according to the CDC, while almost half of the adults in America have high blood pressure, only 1 out of every 4 has it under control. And high blood pressure disproportionately affects Black people. It affects 58% of Black Americans, according to the CDC. And so as we continue this conversation, I want to know from you, why do you think that Black men in particular are disproportionately affected by high blood pressure? I'm curious to see what you think. Is it socioeconomic? Is it just genetics? Is it lifestyle? Is it what's going on? Because another thing Ceaser says later on. Oh, Black Ceaser. I just had a flashback. Back when I was in undergrad, there was this alpha. His name was Black Ceaser, and he was very chocolate and very handsome, and he was on the calendar. Okay, back to what we're talking about. All right, so Ceaser did talk about, he's like, I'm Black. Well, Black men, don't have blood pressure. And that statement actually does have some validity because high blood pressure does seem to disproportionately affect Black men. So tell me what you think in the comments. Why do you think Black men are disproportionately affected by blood pressure? All right. So as y'all get ready to answer that question, I'll talk a little bit more about high blood pressure. A real key thing is that a lot of times there are no symptoms. Okay. There are no symptoms when it comes to high blood pressure. So I can ask you to name symptoms and you might say, oh, chest pain, oh, dizziness, blurry vision. And yes, those things can be symptoms, but primarily while the blood pressure is getting high or in a place where it's still potentially controllable before it gets to the point where you have a stroke or a heart attack, there are often no symptoms. And that's why it's very important to monitor your blood pressure at home, okay, and to see your doctor regularly and to check your blood pressure in a proper fashion. I am going to be posting a video that I did on the proper way to measure your blood pressure at home. And I've got more blood pressure videos coming out. But if you don't have a blood pressure monitor, please click the link in this description or go to drfrita.com, or you can click my link in my IG bio, because I do have in my favorite things section some home blood pressure cuffs that I approve of, that I recommend that you use for monitoring your blood pressure so you don't get into the point where Ceaser did, where he ended up having strokes and some other complications. So has anyone weighed in, Shador, on why Black men are disproportionately affected when it comes to blood pressure?
Yes, they have.
I love y'all med heads. Y'all never disappoint.
Okay. On IG, Ron chimed in.
Hey, Ron from IG. Thank you for supporting me over here.
Ron says, I think it's a combination of social, economic, diets, and lack of knowledge.
You got it. You got it. So then, Ron, the socioeconomic portion of it, depending on where you are socially, if you look around and nobody around you is really heart health conscious, they're not worried about high blood pressure, then you're not necessarily going to be, right? You can be a product of your environment. Plus, when we're talking about socioeconomic, if you don't have great insurance, if you're underinsured, then you're not going to see the value in getting care. You'll go to the ER when you're sick, but if you're just somebody who's healthy in your 20s and your 30s and your 40s, you're not going to go and pay out of pocket $250 to go see a doctor. You don't see the value in it, and you might not have the money for it, right? You might be hustling or be independent or be, self-employed, and you might not have insurance. And so that's a socioeconomic issue, right? And then lack of knowledge. Just like Ceaser said, he said, I'm a black man. What black man doesn't have high blood pressure? Because he said they asked him if he knew he had it. He said, yeah, I knew I had it. But clearly, if he knew that having high blood pressure could cause him to have the strokes, could cause him to have heart failure, could cause him to have what other issues? He said that kidney doctors went to see him. So he didn't specifically say that he had kidney disease, but we know, I'm a board certified kidney doctor, and high blood pressure is the second leading cause of kidney failure. So the chances of him having some form of CKD, chronic kidney disease, are high. But if you don't know, and if you're not having symptoms, and if everybody around you has high blood pressure, then yeah, the lack of knowledge will do it. So yeah, lack of knowledge, lack of resources, socioeconomic issues. Thank you. Thank you for chiming on in here. Oh, come to the front of the class, please. Yes.
Lisa says diet, fast food, and maybe sedentary.
You got it. Diet, fast food, sedentary. And so let's just take it all the way back for Black men. A lot of the foods that we eat as Black people, or at least that we were raised to eat, soul food. What are we talking about? Traditionally, we're talking about foods that are high in sodium. And we know that according to the American Heart Association, it is recommended that most adults eat less than 1,500 milligrams of sodium a day. That might sound like a lot of sodium or salt, but it's not. If you think about just a quarter of a teaspoon of table salt, I'm talking about a quarter of a teaspoon, then already that's about 570 or 590 milligrams of sodium. So if you have 3/4 of a teaspoon of table salt, you've already exceeded your daily limit or daily recommendation of salt. And then top that off, so a lot of the soul food might have fatback, ham hocks, pig ears, chitlins, all those things, or macaroni and cheese loaded with the real butter, loaded with the real cheese. I'm from the South, and so I'm gonna tell you right now, all that sounds good to me, but it's not good for your health. And so in a lot of ways, we have to relearn how we eat. And by no means do we ever insult the culture. We do not insult our grandmas, because if you take it all the way back to where Black people were enslaved, this soul food actually was genius food, because what we did as a people, we didn't have refrigerators. We weren't given the primary cuts of meat or, the ability to go to Whole Foods when we as a people were enslaved. And so what we had to do was take the scraps, take the leftovers. We had to figure out how to preserve it. How do you preserve something? You load it with salt. Okay. So this was survival food, which became soul food. But now, as we know better, we do better. And so as a Black culture, a Black American culture, a lot of us, and Black men included, eat those foods, and those things are contributing to high blood pressure. And comment on what I'm saying if you got something to say about what I say about this being survival food and genius food back in the day. All right. And so what else? Fast food. If you go to some different or historically Black neighborhoods, or if you go to places where there's Section 8 housing and you look at the food places that are around them, you're not going to see a whole lot of fresh foods, a whole lot of farmers markets, a whole lot of gardens. What are you going to see? Fast foods. And that fast food is ultra processed, it's high in salt. So that's also contributing to the high blood pressure of the Black man. Let me tell you, if people want to know what the problem is, all they need to do is come to our Medical Monday with me, with the med heads. Y'all are hitting it. Come on up to the front of the stage. Who was that?
That was Lisa. Come
on, Lisa. Come on up. All right. Now, who do we have? Anyone else comment on why they think Black men might?
Absolutely. Okay. Miss B Wellness. Hello.
Happy Wellness.
She says everything you said, and the stress of life. Many times they do not go to the doctor.
Don't even play. You come on up too. Stress. We know that when you are stressed, that increases stress hormones, including cortisol. Cortisol causes blood vessels to tighten or constrict. What happens if you have blood vessels that are tight? Well, the fluid or the blood that's in them will have an increased pressure against the tightened vessels. This will cause high blood pressure. You show me a Black man who's not stressed. Show him to me, because I haven't seen one yet in this society, specifically here in the America that we live in. And, if they're out, if they get stopped by policemen, check the stress level on a Black man who gets stopped by a policeman, or a Black woman who gets stopped by a policeman. Ask me how I know. I've been stopped, completely innocent, no reason for being stopped, but just because I was in my neighborhood where there aren't many people who look like me, versus other cultures who get stopped. There's everyday stress. You have to worry if you're somewhere with a hoodie and you send your kid to the store with a hoodie with Skittles. Hello, Trayvon Martin. Is your child going to be unalived? And is there going to be no consequence for the person who unalived them? There is stress in Black men in America. And yes, that stress can lead to worsening high blood pressure. All right, y'all done preached a word here. That's good. That's good. And so we will go ahead and move on unless you have anybody else pressing. And I'll just wrap up on some of the things. Make sure you check out my short. It's on, you can find it on IG. You can find it on Facebook. Hey, Replay Crew, y'all already know what to do. You can definitely find it here where I go into more detail, where I kind of break down different portions of the health aspects of Ceaser Emanuel of Black Ink in that Carlos King interview. But we already talked about what high blood pressure is. If your blood pressure is 130 with that top number, or 80 with the bottom number or higher, you do have high blood pressure. We talked about high blood pressure being a leading cause of strokes, of heart disease, second most common cause of kidney failure. I do just want to show you he talked about how he had blood on his brain. He had a hemorrhagic stroke. So let's pull up that image of a hemorrhagic stroke, please, Shador.
Okay, that's gonna be the second one on this slide.
Yeah. So just look over to the right where y'all see the brain with some blood or a red bloody look. So this is an image of a hemorrhagic stroke. What Ceaser describes is that he went to the hospital, they did a CAT scan, and they saw 2 spots of blood on his brain. That's what he's calling 2 strokes. So what happens when you have very high blood pressure, it can literally cause those blood vessels in your brain to rupture or to burst. And so then you have bleeding on the brain. So of course, if the blood is outside of the blood vessel and not in the blood vessel, you're no longer perfusing or giving that brain segment a proper supply. And so what happens? That part of the brain is no longer alive. Okay. You get a cerebrovascular accident or a stroke. And depending on where it is in the brain, it can cause issues. He said that he was doing a tattoo and he started talking funny. Okay. And people couldn't understand what he was saying. So he was having one of the classic signs of a stroke. And you remember B fast, BEFAST. If you have B, balance issues, E, eye trouble or blurry vision, F, facial weakness or facial droop, A, arm or leg weakness, S, slurred speech, like what Ceaser had, then it's T, time to call 911. Make sure you check out my different videos here on YouTube. I talk about strokes explained. I talk about the other type of stroke, ischemic stroke. Honey, I have so much information for you right here on this YouTube channel. That's why we have hundreds of videos. And that's why I thank you to our over 885,000 YouTube subscribers. Okay. I'm telling you, it's evidence-based information. I explain it in a way that's easy to understand so that you can have a better understanding of what's going on with you. You can share it with loved ones. When you go to the doctor, you don't have to worry so much about being talked down to or feeling like, okay, yes, doctor, whatever you say. You'll have some very intelligent, relevant questions if you follow me and you watch my videos. It's all about being your own advocate, being empowered with knowledge. All right. Thank y'all. Come on, Medheads. Let's move on to the next. Oh, and now we're about to get on that midnight train to Georgia, y'all, because we're about to talk about Gladys Knight. We're about to talk about Gladys Knight. Put in the chat your favorite Gladys Knight song, please. What is your favorite Gladys Knight song? What is mine? I'm going to have to say I heard it through the grapevine. I know Marvin Gaye did that too, but Gladys Knight and the Pips did I heard the grapevine. And I like that, y'all. It makes me want to just, hey, get it. And so put your favorite song from Gladys Knight or Gladys Knight and the Pips. And let me just tell y'all what's going on because she's in the headlines and it's not necessarily a super glamorous thing. So we know that Gladys Knight is iconic. She's legendary. She is a rock and roll Hall of Famer. She's 81 years old now and she's still out on tour. She's still performing. Well, her son, Shanga Hankerson, is not happy. And Shanga is suing Gladys Knight's husband for elder abuse because he says that she's having some cognitive decline, some memory decline. And according to Gladys Knight's son, the fact that he has her out there like that and doing all these tours, that it is elder abuse. She has no business working. So if you check out The Shade Room, you'll hear more about what he said. In fact, let's go ahead and play that clip from The Shade Room, the interview that her son did.
Icon and R&B legend.
I'm extremely concerned.
Gladys Knight, a musical force for over 70 years. But behind the legacy,
I don't want my mom out on tour, on a tour bus, wondering where she's at.
her family says something bad is happening to her and she doesn't even know it.
And we went directly to the Department of Human Services.
Only on The Shade Room.
I'm stopping this.
Her son filing a DHS complaint accusing Gladys's husband of elder abuse, forcing her to go on tour, work long hours, knowing that her cognitive health is declining.
He's dealing with my mother. This is my mama.
And what Gladys Knight was allegedly seen doing in the middle of the night that has her family sounding the alarm for her safety.
As her family, we are just concerned about her well-being.
I'm Justin Carter, and this is TSR Investigates.
Yeah, he did a full interview that you can check out on TSR or The Shade Room. I will say that Gladys Knight has responded. She said that she is not a victim of elder abuse. She said that she's healthy and that she's happy to be touring and she's excited about touring and performing, according to People magazine. That's their word from Gladys Knight. Now, let's get back to the son and to Gladys Knight, because of course, you know, we don't have, this is at this point alleged, just at this point reported. But according to him and her daughter, there have been times where she's been found wandering, didn't know where she was, where she's been singing, forgotten lyrics, had to be taken off of the stage because she got confused. This is all reported for anyone who's been to her concerts. And I do know of people who've been to her concerts. I've heard some similar things. I will say that outside of just what the son is reporting. But just to give full background, her son, Shanga Hankerson, has been sentenced for tax evasion, tax fraud, whichever it was in the past. And very importantly, Gladys Knight has sued her son. Okay, in the past, she sued Shanga because she wanted him to take her name off of Gladys Knight Chicken and Waffles. And, you know, he owned it. Her name was on it. She wanted her name removed. So they've had a bit of a past. For her husband, William McDowell, she and her husband got married after they knew each other for 3 months, after they were dating for 3 months. And he is not only her husband, he's her manager. He is 14 years younger than he's 14 years younger than Miss Gladys. And the son just feels like he doesn't have her best interest. These are just some of the facts behind the relationships, you know, of the son and of the husband. What I will say is that the son, Shanga, stated on The Shade Room that he had a text message from Gladys Knight's husband saying that she had a diagnosis of sundown syndrome. If indeed he does have this text message and that is a part of her diagnosis, then sundown syndrome is something that typically does happen with people with dementia, okay? 20% of people with Alzheimer's disease will get sundown syndrome. And that is when the sun starts to set and folks with dementia get confused. They might have some violent behavior. They might start pacing, start wandering, not be oriented, have some anxiety. And it typically starts or gets worse when the sun goes down. And one of the triggers for worsening sundown syndrome is having sleep deprivation. So if you're out at concerts and you're up all times of night traveling and your sleep-wake cycle is off, that really could be a big trigger for this major part of dementia, sundown syndrome. And so if she really does have sundown syndrome and dementia, the son could have a case potentially. We don't know. We're just seeing everything that's reported, that's alleged. Gladys Knight says it's not so. The son says it is so. He has a bit of a strained relationship with his mom. But I want you in the chat to please tell me, what do you think are some types of elder abuse? What constitutes elder abuse? Is it just being violent and popping somebody in the eye with your fist, or is there more to it? What are some types of elder abuse, do you think? So we'll talk about those. And make sure you go ahead and give us a like, please. Give us a like and a follow, because we're giving you evidence-based information over here. My word and my goodness. All right. Our med heads have been on fire. They still on fire. They cooled off, Shador. Does anyone?
We're waiting on those fingers to work, and Dr. Frita. But while they're working on that, here is the number for elderly abuse for anyone who may suspect it with any loved ones as well. There's 1-800-677-1116. That's the national phone number for Adult Protective Services.
All right. And with this, if what he's saying is true, then the likelihood of her dementia would be Alzheimer's dementia. Again, I'm not saying that she has it. Apparently her crew has denied it. Okay. And that's her personal business. But just for our learning purposes, if she were to have it, then we'd be talking about the difference again between Alzheimer's disease and frontotemporal dementia. Okay. Hers would be a memory issue primarily. And she is more grown. She's growner than Wendy. She's 81 years old versus being between the ages of 40 and 65. All right. Anybody?
Chime in here. Miss B Wellness.
Hi, Miss B Wellness.
There's mental abuse, financial abuse, and keeping people isolated.
Boom, boom, boom. You just hit on a bunch of them. So we're not just talking about, when we say abuse, we're not just talking about physical. So yes, you can have physical abuse. Okay. And we see it. And there are oftentimes caretakers who are just so frustrated and overwhelmed, not making excuses, but they will take it out on the person they are taking care of. And they will sit up there and beat on these people. Okay. So there's a physical aspect to it. There's a mental aspect where if you are, you could be speaking very poorly to someone, insulting them, making them, isolating them, making them think that they're worthless without you, right? There's sexual abuse. And we know because we see it in nursing homes all of the time. You have these older ladies, especially if they have dementia, and oftentimes, or if they get dementia to the point where they might even have some impulse control issues, or they might even become more what's considered to be inappropriate, or they speak in a way that's sexually free. Shador, we have patients like that. We have patients who are 89 years old and they're talking about the men folks in their assisted living and what all they want to do to them, which, I'm not just talking about, 89-year-olds who are sex positive. I'm talking about women who did not talk that way before, but as the dementia progresses, their impulses are down and they're feeling hypersexual as a part of the dementia process. And you have some folks who work in these nursing homes, assisted living, who might take advantage of that. So you could have sexual abuse as well as a part of elder abuse. Certainly. Is there anyone else? Because I'm going to keep going.
Yes. Lebo on IG.
Hi. Thank you for watching IG.
Withholding information and capitalizing on the known triggers to keep it disoriented for extended periods.
Oh, now wouldn't that be something nasty if that's what's going on, right? So these are the types of things that Gladys Knight's son Shanga he is accusing her husband of doing. But wouldn't that be really some diabolical abusive behavior if you know that someone being out in Las Vegas with bright lights, awake till 3 a.m, if you know that makes them confused and therefore more dependent on you? Yes, that would be a form of elder abuse for sure. Anyone else as we move?
Yes, Caddy. I haven't seen
Caddy
in a while. Hi, Caddy. Not feeding them, leaving them alone, not taking care of them, and speaking to them badly.
Come to the front of the class. That's the neglect portion, largely what you're describing. So you mentioned a few different, all of that is elder abuse, but you hit on one that I hadn't yet, neglect. So if you leave someone alone where they're confused and really upset, if you're not feeding them, if you're not tending to them, their hygiene, that's the neglect portion of it. Yes, speaking to them badly, the mental portion of it. So yes, you're hitting on more of the types of elder abuse. Very good.
Yeah. Planet Life added gaslighting to that list.
Gaslighting, yes. No, everything's fine. Everything's fine. Your son is saying that I'm mistreating you, but he's just jealous. You remember, he actually, went to jail for taxes. You can't trust him. No, you're fine. Gaslighting. Or yeah, definitely. So that would be part of that mental abuse. Or telling someone who is a multi-millionaire, things are going down. We might have to file bankruptcy if you don't get out there and work. You got to work. And if she could be like, I'm 81 years old, I'm tired. We got all these houses. We got all these things. You know what? I've already put some of my own money in, but if you don't work, we're not going to make it. I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm giving you an example of how someone could gaslight someone, and we could be getting into financial abuse. Okay. So that's good. All right. Anyone else? Because we're going to slide on to the next topic.
No, that's it.
Okay. So the types of elder abuse: physical, mental, sexual, financial, neglect. Okay. And Shador shared that hotline. If you suspect that you are an elderly person being abused, or if you think you're witnessing it, go ahead and call that hotline. You won't be punished for calling if you legitimately suspect it's the job of our departments of health and human services to protect our elderly, our young, all of us. And so please don't be afraid to call if you legitimately suspect that someone might be a victim of elder abuse. And I pray that Gladys Knight is not, the story is looking certainly like something that at least needs to be looked into. All right. All right, so we'll keep on going. Listen, yeah, y'all keep putting your favorite songs. Mine is I Heard the Grapevine, but stop playing because I also like Midnight Train to Georgia. Okay, all right, go ahead and give us a like, a follow, a subscribe as we move on to our next story. Pete Davidson. Pete Davidson, he shares that he had some psychosis from using cannabis or marijuana. Let's play that clip, please.
Back and they're like, oh, wow, he turned it around.
But you do a lot of work. It's the work that they don't see. Like, you know what I mean? Like they don't know the work that you have put in to be to be the version of yourself now.
Thank you. It is tough. But yeah, it's worth it. It's worth it. And it's necessary. Like you gotta grow. You know, when you're doing drugs in your 30s, it's just not cute. Like there's no excuses really. And at a certain point, you all have to grow, always evolve. You're always evolving.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. So something that he has shared, he said that he'd had a psychosis while doing marijuana. And I want you to put in the chat, I'm gonna tell you right now, yes, it's possible to have psychosis from marijuana. And I'll explain why. And I want you to put in the chat, just put, yes, I knew that, or no, I didn't. If you put, yes, I knew that, if you knew that you could literally get psychosis from marijuana. I'm not just talking about LSD and all these other things and fentanyl and Percocet and all this stuff. Did you know that you could get psychosis from using marijuana? Put yes, I did if you knew, but no, I didn't if you didn't. So let's just talk about it a little bit. So with marijuana, we know that there are a couple of components. There is the THC, which is a part of it that makes you feel euphoric and makes you feel high, so high I could touch the sky. Hey, that's the tetrahydrocannabinol, the THC. And then you have the CBD or the cannabinoid part, which can be used for chronic pain and different aspects of health. But let's get back to the THC, the reason that people take it in order to feel that euphoria, to feel that high. Well, if you compare, we've had studies, if you compare the marijuana that's being smoked now to marijuana that was smoked decades ago, the actual concentration of THC is increasing. And researchers believed that this high concentration of THC, especially when it's being used at younger ages, is increasing the risk for psychosis. It can trigger psychosis. It can even trigger schizophrenia in people who didn't even have a diagnosis of schizophrenia. And it's believed that the younger the brain is, because we know your brain doesn't fully develop until you're in your mid-20s. That frontal lobe we talked about earlier, not developed until you're 25. And so if you're dealing with a developing brain and higher concentrations of THC and higher frequency of THC, then that can certainly increase your risk for having psychosis. So now a lot of people thought that Pete Davidson was just kind of stunting or being silly or whatever. And we'll never know the true facts in his case. But I will tell you from a medical perspective, yes, it is highly possible and documented that THC can induce a psychosis. Okay. So there's a great chance that he's telling the truth. I have no reason to doubt him. Did anyone put yes, I did? They already knew that.
Yes. A couple of people say yes, I am paralegal.
Hi, of course. Hi, I'm paralegal. Good to see you. Come on up to the front.
I am paralegal said yes, and Mark Quita said yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And some of us have had people who are close to us or family members, and we have witnessed it and experienced it. And the thing that's really wild is now they have all of this synthetic marijuana. And even though marijuana alone can do it, sometimes people will lace the marijuana or add things to it, like formaldehyde or certain hallucinogens, LSD, PCP. They'll add crack. And I know Whitney said crack is whack, but people will break up pieces of crack and have them. And so not that I am condoning smoking marijuana. That's not what's happening here on the Dr. Frita channel. I will say that if you're someone who's going to be using it anyway, please be careful. Don't just go down the street and get it from any and everybody, because what you think you're smoking, you might not be smoking, and something could happen to you that's even worse than psychosis. Yes, you could not be here, because if you look at some of the different folks that we've talked about right here on the Dr. Frita Mondays, the medical Mondays, we've had different people who have had accidental overdoses, and we don't know, but it's possible that when they've had those accidental overdoses from fentanyl, sometimes folks are lacing marijuana with fentanyl. So what you think is just benign and no big deal could be life-threatening and certainly threaten your mental health. Okay, so that's my public service announcement on that. All right, as we close on out of here. Oh shoot, this time went, but you know what? We're gonna slide out of here. But let's just end on a nice little positive note, real quickly. Have y'all heard about the new Japanese walking method that's been shown to improve health parameters? Let's play that real quickly, and then we'll slide out of here, please.
The best forms of exercise, but have you ever heard of the Japanese walking method for longevity? It's a protocol developed by researchers in Japan, and the results were nothing short of amazing. So instead of walking the same pace the whole time, this method alternates between 3 minutes of fast walking, 3 minutes of slower recovery walking, and then you just repeat that cycle 5 times. So you're only walking for 30 minutes total. And in clinical studies, this interval walking method improved cardiovascular fitness, lowered blood pressure, increased leg strength, boosted your mood. And the people who followed it said that they regularly saw bigger health improvements than people who were just walking regularly at a steady pace. So it's low impact, which we love. It's free, and it is something that you can start today. So the next time you're headed out for a walk, I want you to try alternating your pace. 3 minutes fast, 3 minutes slow, and let me know if you feel a difference. Oh, and pro tip, put on a playlist with songs that naturally vary in tempo. It makes it way more fun.
That's so good. And she is speaking the truth about the studies that are done. So I'll talk about this real quickly as we get ready to close. I do want y'all to put in the chat, and I want you to keep the conversation going in the comments with the replay crew and everyone on all social media platforms. I want you to tell me, and we talked about a lot of things today. We talked about dementia, frontotemporal dementia. We talked about Alzheimer's dementia. We talked about strokes. We talked about high blood pressure. We talked about, we talked about marijuana. Yes, we did. We talked about all kinds of things. We talked about sundown syndrome, and now we're talking about walking and heart health. I want you to tell me one thing that you're going to do today, one thing that you can start today or start your plan for today that will help to improve your health. Put a heart emoji in your comment and then tell me the one thing that you're going to do today or continue that you've already been doing to improve your health. Go ahead and put that in the chat. And so she's telling the truth about this Japanese study that was done. And yes, it seems really easy to do, right? 30 minutes is not a million minutes of your time. 3 minutes fast, 3 minutes slow, and you do it for 30 minutes, okay? And then the study, at least one aspect of the study, they had the people to do it for at least 4 days a week, okay? And they followed them for 5 months. And in this case, they covered just about 230 women, and these were postmenopausal women, okay? And they looked at the women who had low bone density or osteopenia, osteoporosis, okay? They had low bone density, and they found that for the women who had low bone density, like an osteoporosis, they had an improvement in their bone density just after 5 months of walking in this manner, this new Japanese walking method, or new to science. They had an improvement. And so on top of the heart health that she talked about, the improving cardiovascular parameters, the improving blood pressure, it also helped to improve bone density. And I know that a lot of us, as we get older, if you look around and you see people who are older, your aunties, your grandmamas, your teacher, your mother of the church, you see that posture can sometimes get bad, right? They get kyphosis, or they start leaning over, or they shrink about 2 or 3 inches. Okay. A lot of that is because of low bone density or osteoporosis, and you're at an increased risk of osteoporosis once you're postmenopausal. Well, for all of my ladies who are here and you're entering that perimenopausal time, this is one thing to try out. Okay. Just another form of exercise. Another thing, check out my video after you finish watching this live, top 10 exercises to lower your blood pressure naturally. That's right here on the Dr. Frita YouTube channel. All right. Please give us a like as we head out the door. On the way out, did anyone throw in anything that would change today's Shador? Anybody put a heart and what they might change?
Yes, Sherry.
Okay, give us a couple. Then we're going to slide out the door. Okay, what's she saying?
Right. Sherry said continue to walk and line dance for exercise.
I know that's right. Look, and I love the dancing. And, ooh, very good. That's a way to make it fun, right? And still get those cardiovascular benefits. I love it.
Sweet Pea, hello.
Hey, Sweet
Says
Pea.
walking routine.
Very good. Very good. And there was a time where it seemed like people thought that you just had to like run top speed or run a marathon. You can do the walking, and this new interval walking, this high intensity interval walking is a good way. I love it.
Yeah. Francis says water aerobics.
Water aerobics is good, and that is good on the joints, right? Especially if you have inflamed joints or osteoarthritis, that's a way. And listen, you better respect it. People need to respect water aerobics, because by the time you push against that water, and honey, that is some good resistance. Oh, that's good. I love it. Yeah, these are some good fitness tips.
Couple more. Regina said I will drink more water than I did yesterday.
Good. Me too. Remember that drinking water, it has lots of health benefits, but I, as a kidney doctor, have actually had to put people on dialysis for severe and chronic dehydration. Check out my video right here on the YouTube channel, The Benefits of Drinking Water for Kidney Health. It's a real deal. Yeah, please keep drinking water.
And then IG Gary says, ride my bicycle.
Ride a bicycle, please do. That's a nice way. And it's also not a big impact on your joints, a way to get that heart rate up. I love it. Okay, thank y'all. Keep the conversation going, y'all, in the chat. And Shador, thank you as always for being a fabulous co-host. For everyone, make sure you follow me on my one-stop shop, drfrita.com. Check me out on for the television appearance I posted or will be posting. I did go ahead and post one this past week on CBS Atlanta News First. So go ahead and check that out, please. Make sure that you check out my book, Under Pressure, A Guide to Controlling High Blood Pressure. You can find that on drfrita.com as well. And if you want to keep this conversation going, membership. Thank you to all of my members. Oh gosh, I released a couple of members only videos this past week. So please click the link in the description, or you can click the link in IG to become a member. We have members only lives every month, the last Monday of every month, where instead of me doing the hot topics, I'm just talking to you directly. You can press the link. You can come on stage and talk to me face to face, and I will answer your questions. We'll have a conversation. I'll give you medical information. But then if you want to just do a one-on-one, I do offer a telehealth concierge service where I can talk to you from anywhere in the world, designated time. We've been helping a whole lot of people. I'm very excited about the concierge service, because from all over the world, y'all, I've been able to talk to people and help them with their medical issues. All right. So thank y'all for joining, and I will see you next week. Same bat time, same bat place, Monday, noon Eastern Standard Time. And thank you for making Monday your healthiest day of the week.